Ready? All right, good evening. Welcome to the City of Sandwich Committee of the Whole meeting. Tonight is Monday, June 2nd. The meeting is called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Alderman Chan, you can lead us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will Clerk Yee please call the roll?
Alderman Arnett,
Here.
Alderman Chun,
Here.
Alderman Danko,
Here.
Alderwoman Erickson. Here. Alderwoman Inman. Here. Alderman Ketchum.
Here.
Alderman Kreinbrink is absent. Alderman Robinson.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. We'll move on to the mayor's report. Under 4A, we have a presentation by Sean Ajazi of Progressive Business Solutions. This is regarding our electrical purchase renewal. So you want to come on forward? We'll have Jeff pull the slide up and we get started.
Thank you. Good evening. Here tonight to talk about the electric supply contract renewal for the city's 12 facilities that are not included in the utility franchise electric agreement. There are 12 smaller classified accounts, and then there's 11 smaller accounts, and then there's a larger account for the wastewater treatment facility. The existing contract is with Constellation Energy. Constellation's contract runs through the July 2025 meter readings, and 11 accounts are currently under a fixed rate of 7.134 cents. And the wastewater treatment facility is on an on-peak, off-peak hybrid procurement strategy. We looked at pricing for July 2025 start date. We looked at two different options. We looked at continuing the 11 accounts on a fixed supply contract and then keeping the wastewater treatment facility on the on-peak, off-peak program. That allows for fluctuation of rates. The on-peak price is typically about 10 to 15% higher than the off-peak times, but the water treatment facility has more off-peak hours, so you can take advantage of a lower price point. We looked at multiple utility suppliers. We went back out to Constellation as well as AEP, Dynegy, Direct Energy. We have been the consultant for the City of Sandwich since 2011. Over that time, multiple suppliers have entered into contracts with the city for their facilities. For the 11 accounts, we are recommending to stay on a single price point for an all-inclusive fixed rate. We would recommend Constellation for 36 months. The existing contract was for 36 months at a rate of 7.464 cents. And then for the water treatment facility, we also recommend a 36-month contract with Constellation and keeping that on the on-peak, off-peak procurement program. In large part, I'm sure many of you heard, but ComEd's prices are looking to rise starting this month, in large part due to capacity costs. Capacity is the second largest component outside of the energy. Costs are going from $35 per megawatt hour a day that expired in May to $270 per megawatt hour a day starting in June. For comparison, the 36-month contract that we're recommending at 7.464 cents, ComEd's price point this month is 10.125 cents. So you can see there is a cost variance by continuing with the deregulated supplier, roughly around 2.6 cents less. Large part, we are part of a 13-state grid transmission authority. It's called the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland grid. And due to the closures that we've had of coal plants on the grid, as well as data centers coming online and many other factors, the price point really for the next 3 years is going to vary between $175 to $325 after the expiration of May of next year. What we're looking to do is to come back on Monday, June 16th to make a final recommendation for the board to continue with Constellation for the 36-month price points. We will update the pricing and send that out for the board prior to the meeting because prices do change. No different than gas prices at the pump or milk at the grocery stores. Any questions from the board? Be happy to take.
Yeah. So I see your prices, and I know at a certain point, ComEd's going to want to get paid for delivering that power. You know what the delivery fee is?
Yeah, the delivery fee is not included in this. This is just the electric supply section. So
Right,
you're
but-
still gonna pay, on top of this, it's around anywhere between 3.5 to 4 cents on top of these prices. So the
that's-
distribution facilities, those are all gonna be passed through. You're just looking at the supply component, which is the option that you have.
Well, when it comes back to us, when ComEd delivers us power, that includes delivery.
Yeah.
So when we get power charged like this, it'd be nice to have delivery fee added into it so we know apples to apples price, if you could have that next
Sure,
time.
I can add that in there. That's not a problem.
All right, other questions from council? So it looked to me like your estimated consumption for the year from the low quote, it was about 88,000 to the high quote of about 93,000, so that's kind of the spread between those.
Yeah,
So
close to that.
has some savings in that from certainly where we're at, because I think our current rate's expired.
Yeah, and then always compare to what ComEd's price point's gonna be.
Okay. So if council is agreeable, any other questions? Donna, do you have one? Okay. So if there's no other questions, I'll ask them to bring back a proposal to us at the June 16th meeting for council approval.
I can provide that.
Yep,
Thank
you
you.
get that out in advance, we'll share that with council.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, attorney report. Attorney Foster from Foster, Buick, Conklin, Lundgren, and Gottschalk.
Nothing really to report.
Okay. City clerk reports and ECE.
No report.
Treasury reports, Sandra Kohler.
No report.
City Administrator Jeff Penman.
Good evening. Just wanted to give you a couple quick updates. Tomorrow, we've got a meeting with our engineers and everyone for the Main Street project, so we'll be getting more information tomorrow on that. Could begin as soon as next week, so we're hopefully going to have a better schedule after that. Also, I also did hear back from our contractor on the 724 North Main Street house. We should see some activity over there this week as well. They finally were able to get everything they needed from ComEd. It was submitted back in April. Of course, it got lost at ComEd. So a couple weeks of badgering everybody, and we were able to finally get it figured out. So we should be moving ahead on that as well. So that's all I've got for now.
Okay, questions for Jeff? All right, moving on, city department reports, EMA report, Tony Eberly.
Just a reminder that tomorrow at 10 is our monthly siren test. Right now, any severe weather, if it does come in, will come in the afternoon. So that's still planned for tomorrow. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Chief Senni, please report.
Just some of our community engagement, we attended our final mystery reader event and participated in the Touch a Truck event at Haskins. At that event too, we also did our first handing out of popsicles for the season. The Explorers meeting continued over the last 2 weeks. Just an update on our lateral process. The applicant who was in our lateral process, he's just passed his background check, and we're in the process of scheduling the next phases. And then as I stated before, the lateral process will stay open until we fill all open positions. Just a reminder, we currently have 2 open positions within the police department for police officers. The Chiefs quarterly meeting, so the next Chiefs quarterly meeting is going to be held on June the 26th at 6 p.m. at the police department. We're going to be talking about our training initiatives that we're doing, some of the training that we're attending, and then also our simulator is set up, so we're going to be doing a demonstration on the 3-screen simulator. Our police explorers, I'm happy to announce that they're going to be competing in their first competition, which is going to be held on June the 18th at Judson College. I'd like to recognize Mary Bryant and Wendy Flowers for their contributions, because this is Law Enforcement Civilian Week. Our squad car planning, so we have begun exploring options for acquiring squad cars with either through a lease or a direct purchase. We've started that process going on. And it's never too soon to start talking about, but National Night Out, we started our planning for that. National Night Out is going to be August the 5th. It will be here before we know it. Our social media outreach, just so you know, in addition to Facebook now, we have launched our Instagram account, and we're going to be looking to add a LinkedIn account soon to expand our communication platform. And then I also want to congratulate Sergeant Eisenberg for graduating Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command. He's the 2nd sergeant within this year to graduate from that in particular program. I want to also read a case that came in. The officers did a great job. This happened on May the 29th. It was an aggravated domestic battery with strangulation. So on May 29th, the officers responded to the 300 block of Crowfoot regarding a male subject who was bleeding for unknown reasons. Upon arrival, officers discovered an ongoing domestic dispute between a father and son. The investigation revealed the son became upset after his parents refused to buy cannabis for him. He began punching holes in the wall, prompting the father to intervene. The son then struck his father in the face and at one point strangled or choked him. During questioning, the kid admitted, I started to cut off his wind. The dad stated he passed out when the son had choked him. The dad had suffered substantial face injuries but declined medical treatment. The son requested to be evaluated at the hospital, claiming his father had punched him during the altercation. After being cleared medically, the son was taken into custody. He was charged with 1 felony count of aggravated domestic battery, strangulation, and 2 misdemeanor counts of domestic battery. The son was currently on parole, and we were able to secure a Illinois Department of Corrections warrant for his arrest, where they ended up violating his parole as a result of this. Just a couple quick other things too. So starting the week of June, or actually, yeah, the week of June 13th, from June 13th to June 26th, I'm going to be on vacation during that time. Sergeant Whitecotton will be the acting chief of police. And then, as I always like to say, we have the public dashboard, so I reminded the public to look at that. And then also our website, we are actually updating our website, so there's some new changes to that. And then again, as I like to always end, I thank the officers for all the work outstanding work that they're doing each and every day.
All right, thank you, Chief. Move on to our council reports. Alderman Arnett.
In talking to Brad, the manhole relining company, he's been speaking to them. Manhole relining should start here really soon. Also, we've been talking about equipment out at the plant that was not replaced due to the rebuild. We've got some equipment out there that's quite expensive that's going to come up in the next couple of years that needs to be replaced or fixed, completely rebuilt, and it's gonna be very expensive. As a council, I think we need to start planning for the future, putting money aside, finding a budget that we can put money aside and build towards. So when we get to a project that's not $1 million, $1.5 million, and it's a shock factor, we already have a bank account set up. I mean, I taught my kids when they were 5 years old to have a piggy bank. So as a city, I would think we should be able to do that, planning ahead, and that's where I want to go.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Chun.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Danko.
No report.
Alderwoman Erickson.
Nothing right now, thank you.
Alderwoman Edmond.
Just a couple things. I had a couple residents contact me yesterday. We're not allowed to burn leaves on Sunday, and there was a couple people that were. And also, there, the vacant lot at Fifth and Castle, the grass is very, very tall. So I'm hoping maybe we can do something about that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Ketchum.
Nothing at this time.
Alderman Robinson.
I was just going to inquire about the water department licensing signer, if we have determined who we're going to use for our monthly signer for the state reports, if we're going to be using another city or village's licensed signer, or if we're going to go through a outside firm such as Test Incorporated or something like that.
Well, we did put the job position out there, so we'll see if we get somebody. After the retirement, we have 30 days to get somebody signed up through the EPA and the approval. I do have a meeting tomorrow night with someone that may be the signer, as well as another option for us with another organization. So ultimately, we will have to have someone sign for the plant. Hopefully, we'll get a candidate that we can just bring right in and they'll take that spot.
Good, thank you.
Yep, anything else?
No, that's it for now, thanks.
Okay, old business. We have item A, discussion of ordinance that amends 98-145 of the Sandwich Municipal Code. This is our airport development area. Jeff, you and Don want to speak to this?
I'm going to go ahead and let Don speak to it. I spoke to it a little bit last time. I mean, really, well, I'll let him do it.
Good evening, everybody. This ordinance was created in 1978 for the airport when it was rated as commercial. In, I believe, 1998, the airport was moved back to a restricted zone, meaning it was no longer commercial. What it does is basically the glide slope changes, and what it affects is the property across Gladue Road to the east, and there's different heights. So in the original ordinance, it was 20-to-1, so for every 20 feet, there's 1 foot up. It makes Gladue Road very short, crossing, and of course, the building, if we were to build across the street, it would create some hindrance there. Since 1998, that glide path has changed. The FAA no longer has any control of that airport, nor do they want it, and it's under the Illinois Department of Transportation, Department of Aviation. And what they're saying is the glide path changes now to 15-to-1, so for every 15 feet out, it goes up 1. So in essence, across the board, it's adding 14 to 17 feet, almost 40 feet across that lot, so adding 40 feet in height ability. What it does is, for us we couldn't enforce it anyway, but we can recommend it and hold people to it and hold that as the standard. But we need in the ordinance published the accurate number, so if someone was to come to us and they read 20-to-1 in the ordinance, now we have to have that discussion in-house and say, no, it's really 15-to-1 according to the Department of Aviation. And it's not an arguable point. It is the only thing that we'd allow to happen there so that we could protect the airport. So all we're asking is to change the numbers to what they should be and should have been back in to 1998. And I saw in Alderman Robinson earlier, what it does is protects the airport, or protects that subdivision so it can maintain to be an airport. When it's a restricted fly zone like that, what that basically means to anybody that has a pilot license is you can use it only with permission of the owner. So when they do their flight plans and they say, hey, I need to stop in Sandwich for whatever reason, they have to have permission of the owner of the airport. That's the restrictions that is on it. So I think it's a safe thing to do to protect the airport.
So Don, one of the concerns from council is that by passing the ordinance, they did not want to, I'll use the word, infringe upon the use of the airport in the future. So can you speak to about what we might put there if this passes that would not impede any future use? It still would have the landing opportunities?
Yeah, the landing opportunities are there. It's not restricting anything going forward. What really happened back in 1998 is when they did all that building, they got too close to what they call the obstruction zone. So you have some homes, some lots in that, and all those buildings along Route 34 Church Street. The taxiway is entirely in the obstruction zone, which is not allowed, and some of the buildings are. So for them to clean that out, if you ever want to make a commercial, all those would have to go away and get pushed back, which is probably not feasible. I don't see anyone taking that path. So that's why it was reduced in 1998, because the buildings got too close to what they call the obstruction zone nearest the airstrip. The one problem we're gonna probably have, and when they come out here later this month to do their inspection, I think we're gonna have more problems with the forest preserve because of the height of the trees on the other side. I think that's, that we can't control. So we'll talk about that when they come out for their inspection. I've talked to the head of the Department of Aviation and to the inspector that's assigned to us, and they're perfectly fine with this. Matter of fact, they're the ones that gave me the number 15-to-1.
Your recommendation is the council pass this ordinance?
Yeah, we'd ask you to amend it, to change that number to 15-to-1 from 20-to-1. It helps, it increases the ability to develop across the street while protecting the airport and keeping it open.
Okay, questions from council?
The only thing we asked for at last council was some type of documentation from the state stating that the 15-to-1 would do nothing to the airport. That's the only thing that I believe we all asked for.
Well, the 15-to-1 protects you. That's the classification under the state now. It has been since 1998.
Did you get an email or anything from the
Yeah,
state?
I've been emailing back. They're the ones that gave us all those diagrams and all those explanations that were turned in the report.
Okay, other questions?
I had concerns 2 weeks ago on this and trying to find where I had my notes or copy of that. But basically, it was the guy from the Illinois Department of Aviation who basically had said that it was no longer commercial, but it's considered the IS-65, which is restricted, meaning it is private, so it's a private airport. And again, my only concern is I just don't want the people there in the subdivision to all of a sudden find out that we as a city allowed something. And I guess maybe it's because in the past we've allowed things to get by, and after something has been constructed or built or put in a parkway or whatever the case is, we don't have any bite to bring it back or whatever. And I'd feel pretty horrible for an entire subdivision if we allowed somebody to build something and it was taller than what it's supposed to be. So,
And that's why we put this restriction. I'd like to see it in the code, because here's my concern. Developer reads our code, starts to plan, reads our code, says 21, comes to us. Now, we're not gonna allow that 21.5, we're gonna go back to the 15-1.
correct.
But now we have to have that going back and forth, and that gets to be, that's just bad business. You know, let's give them the right information up front.
And I get that, but I guess also with that give and take back and forth, it would make sure that it's in the forethought or forefront that we're making sure that we are doing what we're supposed to for that subdivision, which is to make sure that the 15-1
Yeah.
is maintained.
Yes.
My concern is that we do it to 15-1, nothing else happens, the property's gonna be developed, and next thing you know, it's 16-1 or 17-1 what the building is, and there's no guarantee, correct?
Well, we wouldn't recommend that. You know, that would
Well,
be
I
part of,
understand. I
that
understand,
part of, you know, we'd bring the Department of Aviation and make sure everything's right with their measurements. We're gonna let them measure it. We're not gonna measure it.
So,
And we're gonna stay that they stay right 15-1 or less.
if we actually follow through, then I wouldn't have no problems with it. That's just my concern.
Our intention is to protect that airport, and the 15-1 protects it. It also opens up the possibilities of development a little more across the street, because we're getting about 8 to 40 feet more height. Now, I measured, if you're gonna develop that property, you're not gonna have a driveway on 34. We're just not gonna deal with IDOT. We'd bring the driveway in from Gleddy. The property would probably be developed to the east and to the south, with the center area being partly parking. So that'll stay flatter. By the time we get to the buildings, we're pretty deep into the glide path. I think we'd be like, in the middle of the property would be 858 feet, and to the eastern setback, it'd be close to 1,000.
That was my only concern. I have nothing else.
So I would think that if we're gonna bring the state in to measure it, then that's the proper way to do it. So-
Yeah, we're not gonna take that on. We're gonna let them do that.
Okay.
If and when it develops, we would bring them in.
Any other questions or comments? If not, it'll be moved on the agenda where it says now for the regulars, you can actually vote on it. Okay. All right, item B, discuss some possible changes to the Finance Committee. Our new chairwoman, Alderman Erickson suggested that we make it from 3 to 5. I did have another volunteer, so Alderman Danko is asked to serve on it, and Alderman Robinson, so that'll be the total of 5 people we need. Our municipal code under our committees allows me to go ahead and make those appointments. Since you already have established the committee, council does not object to those 2 individuals, then I'll go ahead and officially appoint them and give them notice. We'll update our appointments, and they can start serving on that committee if everyone's fine with that. Okay, all right, and that is what I'll do. I'll put that in an official document, and I'll notify each of those individuals that they're now on the committee, and they can start serving on that at the next meeting. All right, item C is a resolution to allow purchase of the out-of-state IMRF credit. That's still on the agenda from last time. Are there any updates to the credit?
No.
Okay. Council have any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to D. D was the ordinance regarding Prairie View parking restrictions. The recommendation includes one block west and east of Pleasant on both sides of Castle. Currently, there is a restriction on the south side. We spoke with the school district, and they're in favor of the ordinance that we're putting forward to help increase safety of the school and reduce those that don't follow their pickup plan. All right, so item D, floor is open for discussion. Any comments on the recommended changes?
I'm just in favor of, our police department looked at it, our police department said this is what they feel we should have, so it's something I would be in favor of.
Okay, other comments from council? I did speak with the principal, he's like, let's do it, so they know it's gonna be in effect next year if it passes. We'll have the notification period, and then we can go ahead and actually put the signs up on that. So, Chief, any comments? No. No, okay. All right, new business.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have a draft of that ordinance?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be in front of you, yes. That was one of them that came in on Sunday, so I made copies for everybody. I thought I did.
I don't have it.
Okay. Then maybe I made a copy of the other two. That's it? Okay. I must have missed it. I can send it out for next time.
Okay, so that'll be up for first reading under the regular agenda, and there's no rush because we just have to have in place before school starts.
Thank you.
All right, new business. This is a discussion on the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 38. This is our historical preservation of the City of Sandwich and our municipal code. I have asked two members of the commission to come speak about the ordinance. Both are Chris Phillips and Chris Schwimline. So if you don't mind, they'd like to come up, talk a little bit, and give some representation of the committee that brought this forward, because it did come from that committee. So I thought it was proper to come speak with council about this, so you understand their reasoning. Let's make sure you state your name, and then this will be the two members of the historical committee.
Chris Schwimline. I'm one of the members on the Historic Preservation Committee. So as Todd mentioned, that we've been working on this ordinance to give us a little bit of teeth for some of the things that we may anticipate in the future as far as historic preservation is concerned. I think we've been going over this ordinance, tweaking it about the last year and a half or so, ever since the commission was formed, because right now there is nothing that we have with which to fight or defend the things that we feel may be important to us from a historical perspective. So it contains a lot of information. I know it's fairly long to read in some cases, but I think it's a fairly comprehensive piece of document that hopefully will cover what we anticipate maybe down the road. Some of these things may not happen, or may not happen right away, or while I'm a member or Chris is a member. But what we wanted to make sure was that when we went over this in the commission, piece by piece, that everybody had a say-so as far as what they thought was important, whether it was from an architectural standpoint, whether it's from an archaeological standpoint, artifacts, things like that. Some of these things have not come up yet, but we feel like going forward, if we want to preserve something that is historic and of sentimental value to the city, excuse me, the City of Sandwich, we felt that we needed to have something to present to the City Council for consideration for our sake and the sake of the preservation of the City of Sandwich, so.
Okay. Chris Phillips speak about, he chairs the committee. Chris is the secretary, and then I'll open the floor up to the council if you have some questions for them.
Part of this ordinance that we'd like to get passed, there's certain areas of the city that we'd like to designate as historic, like Elmwood Place, that street, and a few others. One of the things we don't want to do, and I remember talking to a couple council members about this, is that we don't want some lady who's been in her house for 65 years, 70 years, to all of a sudden have to abide by certain regulations. That's not what this is about. If somebody wanted to come in and see Denise and get a certificate of appropriateness for their home and put themselves in a historic designation for their home, that they can do. But we're not gonna go in and force people to follow and abide by this. Now, what Chris was talking about, having a little teeth in, somebody wants to tear down a historic building and just take a wrecking ball to it, well, there might be a few artifacts from the city that would be worth saving. And that might be a business owner, a homeowner, and we want to work with them to save this, or save certain artifacts. There is an appeals process. Anything that we do and approve has to go to your committee and get approved by you guys. So we just don't unilaterally make decisions on everything without your approval also. So.
Okay, questions for either one of them? Adam?
So at last meeting, obviously, I was the one kicking and screaming. The problem I have with the way it's written, Section 38-28, any person, group of persons, or association may apply to the commission for designation. Basically, anybody can look at your house and say, that was Colonel Sanders' house, I want it to be on there. The problem I have with it, and the only thing I asked for, was a homeowner to be able to have an opt-out clause in this. Just because anybody can look at your house and say, I want it to be, I don't pay their mortgage, I don't pay their taxes. It's their home. As long as that home's not a blight on the community, they're taking care of it the way they should be, it's their home. And what I don't want to see is government outreach, government overreach. That's what I will not vote for.
And I agree with you on that. Now, we might go, hey, this is a historic area, and we might call it a historic area, and that would be just a name only. But you would have to, I don't want, and this could be tweaked, obviously, and might need to be tweaked. But yeah, you shouldn't come up and go, hey, I like your old house. Your old house is a funeral home, I want it on this, and I don't want that.
But unfortunately, it says that in this.
Well, then,
Is there a process, though, for appeal or relief within the ordinance itself?
For relief, yes, but the problem with relief financially is we as a city are having problems taking care of the streets department building, the opera house. We have our own monies we need to spend upkeeping our buildings, let alone taking on tons of other homes where elderly can't take care of. Because literally when you read this, and it's 13 pages long, the windows, the doors, the moldings, that home, and there are beautiful stately homes in this town that I would hate to see go away. But there are a lot of elderly people that are not going, if someone walks up and says, I want that house to be that, like Doc Carey's house. Doc Carey's house is absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
But now it's gray. It's not Doc Carey's home anymore. It's their home. They're paying the mortgage. It's their home. And one thing I don't want to do as a city government is tell somebody, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do with your house, because that's not governing, that's ruling, and I will not vote for that.
And that's not what our intention is. And if the owners of Doc Carey's house wants to join and make that a historic home, then there would be a little bit of stuff you'd have to answer to, okay? If they choose to get in that. I shouldn't be able to go, hey, I want your home in a historic district or a historic designation, and now you got to abide by the rule. That's not what this is about. That's not what I want. So.
And I would love to see a lot of the older homes, a lot of the buildings in town. If an owner decides to do it, God bless. And when you sell your home, it's already designated, so the new buyer knows it's designated.
Absolutely.
So in this going forward, if we could fix this a little bit, to where it doesn't say anyone in town, any group, any association can look at anyone's home and say, it's going to be this, an opt-out clause. That's all I'm looking for.
We can do that. So.
I think the other point too is that there needs to be some uniformity in the community. You can't have 15 different historical homes with 15 different markers that designates that, and this will give them the ability to have that uniformity across all historical properties in town. So I think it does add some things to it. It'll be like every ordinance we have in this book. They're not perfect, but it's something to work off of. That doesn't mean you can't come back and amend something. I do believe that when they set up the original zone, there is a criteria for establishing that they would have to meet. And it is set by number of population within the district. So there are some parameters as well. Other questions? Okay. All right, thank you,
All right,
gentlemen.
thank you.
Thank you.
The committees always like to see that their work ends up here, so I just want to remind you of that. All right, the 1% grocery tax. So some of you are new. You may not have been here when we had the discussion. Our state of Illinois had diminished some of our revenue by taking off the grocery tax. I'm of the opinion that the state should never take away our revenue. They should take away their own revenue if they want to, but they should never take away our revenue. And although it seems like it's grocery, and some people say that shouldn't be taxed in the first place, many of the people that shop in our community don't live here, right? So that's a great source of revenue for us that we hope wouldn't be diminished. So when the state did take action, and basically said that communities such as ours and others would have this tax removed, they didn't consult with us. We had to work through IML. We were part of the group that they represent us to try to stop this, but it still went through. Our request of council is that we have a process we have to go through to put that tax back in place, and we'd like to do so. Council's had that discussion before, but since we have a new council, we didn't take action because there was still plenty of time, so it's back before you. My recommendation is that we put it back. It is a source of revenue for us, and we can't keep having those things diminish. So that'll be something that council will have to vote on. So you would have got a couple documents. Jeff was nice enough to show you some of the other communities that have moved forward to replace their tax as well. I think originally we were looking about $20,000 is what we could potentially lose. That's likely to be greater when the Dollar Tree goes in because they also will now start selling food products right adjacent to our neighboring community, Plano. So that's likely to go up. So any discussion from council and about the tax? If not, it'll come back for a vote.
Roughly how much a year were we bringing in with the 1%?
20,000. We expect that to go up with Dollar Tree coming into the community.
Would that be kind of considered a pass-through tax too then for the most part, since it was something that was already being taxed before?
Yeah, I don't think
by the
people would.
state?
Yeah, I don't think people would notice the difference. If we put it on the right timing, it won't go away. It'll just continue. But we would lose that amount of revenue.
When does that end? At the end of the year?
2026 is when it takes effect. It's in the IML document of the actual timing. I think we have until the end of the year to file it, so it doesn't disrupt the flow of taxes through the Illinois Department of Revenue.
It says we have to submit an ordinance by October 1st of 2025 and then goes into effect January 1st of 2026.
So basically, it would still be collected, it would just be given to us directly, or it'd be.
It'll still go through Illinois Department of Revenue. Keith, you want to talk about that?
But, okay.
It still follow the same process. We're just telling them it still needs to be collected and returned to us.
For us, it's just important to point out, it's not a new tax. It's just a different name on it.
No, I mean, and there's also an article in there too, and some of the other publications that talk about the fact that Illinois doesn't have a lot of taxes on services. So therefore, they're very heavy on sales tax and property tax. The state could have done some other relief too if they wish to do so. I think it was just easier for them just to get rid of this. And unfortunately, it hurts municipalities. Any comments? Okay. All right. Next item is item C. This is our renewal of Lauterbach and Amman. So I'd like to point out that when we brought on the financial analyst position, I told Jeff that one of the things that we'd have to do is take on some of the duties that we now pay through for contractual service. So this, it comes out to about $27,000 a year. I think we're over $60,000 now with Lauterbach. That's accumulated over time, and the use of their services precede at least 2 other mayors, so we've had a relationship for quite a while. So this reduced it more than half. Those duties are going to be taken on by Angie Seville, our financial analyst. She's met with them and she's ready to take on the other responsibilities. So my recommendation is that we renew the contract with reduced professional services and therefore reduced cost. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
On the paper that we were sent out, on the, I guess it'd be the 3rd paragraph there where it says these services cannot be relied upon. that paragraph there. It's, right there, it says that they're not held accountable for, or responsible for anything pretty much they do.
Yeah, that's like in every
So-
audit we have too, by every audit firm. You read that,
So, like,
it's just their language they use.
I don't know how we can even approve that.
Well,
I mean, how,
Yeah, so part of that is the fact that we enter the numbers and they review the numbers, so there's more than one person that's maybe responsible for those. I think that that's what they're pointing to, that if we put in bad data, they can't be responsible for bad data. And most of what they do is more advisory and guidance, so we talk about our budget, our audit, our AFR. The only thing that they really provide financial data on is the treasurer's report, and they take that, they rely on other, entities too. The state of Illinois provides information to them. So I think that their point is that, if the information is received from a third party, it's only as true as the third party provides.
I was just saying, because there are accounting people, right? So shouldn't they,
Yeah, but I think
there
if you read
shouldn't
like
be an
our,
error if there are accounting people?
I think if you read our audit, it says all kinds of things about how they're not responsible for errors and omissions for information provided to them. I think that's just, I wasn't gonna say lawyer speak, but that's typical accountant speak that you see in a lot of those.
Okay, then the other part on there is the Exhibit A. The fourth thing down says that the monthly accounting review will be with Angie. And then, as you were talking about the treasurer's report that they do, will the treasurer be involved in that? Up with Wes? or-
Yes, I've met with Sandra, and she has the ability to, well, we're not really involved in the process now, they actually do it for us. But we do have the option of doing it in-house, and we also have the ability to provide those reports to the treasurer as well. The treasurer could do the report if she'd like to do so. Or she can still accept the report that's provided and speak to the contents.
Okay.
It's a lot of work. I mean, if she wants to do it herself, that's probably a couple days worth of work to prepare a treasurer's report.
No, I was just saying it wasn't in here, is,
Yeah, it's not in the other agreement
So I
either.
just wanted to make sure that it was on there.
Jeff, do you know, will Angie be taking on any other duties of the treasurer's report, or will Lauterbach and Alman still do it in the entirety?
No, she's gonna do some of that as far as providing the documents and pulling it all together. So that is a part of what we're trying to get. And it's nice having somebody here who's doing some of that, because before we had to wait until the bank statements made it, and we had to send them to Lauterbach to do them and things like that. So we have a better handle on what's going on with our finances now than we've had in the last couple of years. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at on this. We did go through this with Wes and Angie and tried to look at it and what makes the most sense. So this is what we came up with.
Okay, so we'll start the process and we can evaluate as well. The key word here is cost savings, which is what our goal was when we hired her for that position. And I agree with Jeff, bringing it back in-house is always to control your own data is better than to rely on somebody else and their timing of it, so. All right, so that'll be on the regular agenda for approval by council. Are there any announcements? Public comment? Anyone like to make public comment? All right, motion to adjourn the committee of the whole.
Yes.
Alderman Robinson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Erickson, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we'll take a quick recess and we'll come back for our regular meeting.